And we're just going to get started in a few minutes. For anyone who's just joined, if you could please mute yourself and turn off your camera so that we are able to record. We would appreciate that. And please introduce yourself in the chat. And we're just going to give it another minute or so to let everybody join and introduce themselves. Okay, so one more reminder just to mute yourself and turn your camera off since we're recording. And I think we're going to get started since we are trying to keep it to 1 hour just to respect everyone's time and fatigue of Zoom meetings. And we're really excited to start this roundtable series off and get to connect with you all and hear about all of the great work that's being done by different 3RQ organizations. And for anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Rachel Pell, and I'm with the West Virginia Water Research Institute, where I help out with Three Rivers Quest programs, including organizing the series. So you'll probably hear from me quite a bit. And today's session is going to be a little bit different from the two that'll be following in the next 2 months, because today we're going to really try to make sure that everybody has a good understanding of what the Three Rivers Quest program is about and our different tools for data entry, and just kind of make sure that that foundation is laid before we get into the fun part of learning about what everybody is doing. And it seems like we have a really good mixture today of folks that are already involved with 3RQ, some that are completely new to it, and some that may be familiar with it but haven't really been directly involved. So I think we'll have some good information for everyone, and hopefully you'll all have some good questions for us. So we're going to start with Melissa O'Neill, who is the Associate Director of the Water Research Institute and also the Program Manager of Three Rivers Quest. And she's going to give us a background and overview of the Three Rivers Quest program. And then we will have Lisa Barrero give us a waters database information session. And then finally, Jude Platts will give us a bit of information about the online maps that we have. And we will have a question and answer session at the very end, which will be facilitated by Stan Kabala. And so if you have any questions at any point, put them in the chat and we will talk about them at the end. And if anybody has any technology issues as we start off, please give me an email. I will put my email in the chat in just a second. But if Melissa wants to get started.
Well, hi, everyone, and thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Can you all see my screen and hear me? Okay, perfect. I'm going to just give a little bit of a background in regards to 3RQ. Some of you on the virtual webinar are familiar with 3RQ, and we had several names pop up that look like some new folks that are interested in learning more. Three Rivers Quest is a program at the West Virginia Water Research Institute where myself, Rachel Pell, and Sarah Caton, who is also on the line, work. This is just one of many programs that we have at the Institute. We rely predominantly on soft funding, so we do all sorts of different projects. There's a Water Research Institute in each of the 50 states, housed at the land-grant universities within the state. So we are at WVU. We are not bound by the geographic borders of the state, so we are flexible to be able to work on projects in neighboring states, which is very beneficial because, as we all know, the Monongahela River watershed encompasses more than just the state of West Virginia. So we're very fortunate to not be bound by any geographic state borders. This project, to give you guys a little bit more of a background on the specific 3RQ, this all came about in late 2008, whenever our director, Paul Zemkavich, started getting calls from river users, both on the industrial side and the recreational side, who were noticing some changes in basically the salts or total dissolved solids in the Monongahela River. We were able to secure a little bit of funding through the USGS and begin a monitoring program in 2009, which we called Mon River Quest. During that time period, we were really interested in gathering known resources in terms of other organizations that were collecting data, because we really wanted to try to get an idea of what was contributing to these big changes. There had always been coal mining in the area. Shale gas development was on the rise, which was something that was sort of unfamiliar on a large scale. And we really wanted to be able to look and see how, where they're coming, where these salts are coming from, and what are the sources? You know, is it industrial on the mining side, or is it more related to shale gas development? With existing data sets from USGS, Army Corps of Engineers, and other water users, water treatment facilities, there wasn't really a way to look at the actual constituents, all of the parameters of total dissolved solids, to really be able to start to figure out where it was coming from. So that was the basis of why we started our own monitoring program, rather than just gathering known data that was out there in the world. A couple other things that you'll note of timeline on this scale that you see. In late 2010, the EPA and Pennsylvania DEP actually listed the Monongahela as impaired for sulfate. And then if you look on down, you'll see that late in 2014, it was actually removed. So there's a lot of good stories along the way. And we're very proud that our monitoring program and the data that we've been able to collect has been able to provide really useful information for those regulatory authorities. One of the things that we were able to distinguish with our monitoring program were the sources of TDS, and working with the industry, particularly the coal industry, on developing a mine discharge management plan, which has been very successful in terms of reducing the amount of TDS going in particular. And I only got 5 minutes, so I'm going to have to roll through this. To give you an idea of what the 3RQ program itself looks like in terms of our structure, We have Lisa Barrero, who you'll hear from shortly. She is our database manager. We also have our outreach coordinator, Stan Kabala, who is also on video here, and you'll hear him later as well. We partner with various different watershed organizations throughout the Upper Ohio River Basin. On our Southern Allegheny portion of the 3RQ program, we have a partnership with Duquesne University. And John Stoltz, Brady Porter, I know I saw his name pop up, so he's on here today. Beth Dakin. In the Northern Allegheny, we have a partnership with Red Horse Environmental, which the Bruce Dixon, who is our contact there, was heavily involved with the Iron Furnace of Trout Unlimited, so they can be listed as well. On the Ohio side, we have a current partnership with West Liberty University and James Wood. At the beginning of the 3RQ program, we were partnered with Wheeling Jesuit University, and we very sadly lost Ben Stout a few years ago. Also in the Ohio, Dave Seville does all of the routine monitoring. He used to work with Ben Stout, so he's very familiar with all of our sites. And then in the Monongahela, the Water Research Institute handles that portion of sampling with our team of Sarah Caden, Rachel Tell, and several students. What are we monitoring for? We're really focused on total dissolved solids because that was the cause of concern back in late 2008. There is a secondary drinking water standard of 500 milligrams per liter. So that's something that we're looking for whenever we're trying to evaluate the effectiveness of the total discharge management plan, looking further downstream on the MON to see, you know, are we keeping it under 500 or is it going over? There's an entire list of all the parameters that we look for on our website, and there's a link there. If you guys just go to threeriversquest.wvu.edu, you can look around. This is what the Upper Ohio River Basin looks like in terms of the area that we're sampling. All of the black dots are our monthly sample locations. So we go out, do grab sampling for TDS chemical monitoring, and we do that on a monthly basis. When the program first started, we were out there every 2 weeks. And we collectively sample between the targeted dates of the 10th and the 20th of each month between our partners. And we all use the same laboratory. So our data set is phenomenal. Oops. We selected our sites based on known TDS input. So this is just a quick subway map that provides a really cool visual, I think, of where we're sampling in relation to major AMD treatment plants or brine facilities and coal-fired power plants. The value of chemical monitoring is that we're able to look at our total dissolved solids and look at each of those different parameters and start to get chemical signatures so we can tell if a waterway is more influenced by mine water or by brine water. YO is the Youghiogheny, TE is 10 Mile, and the other ones are spelled out there, but you can really see the different relationships just at those pie charts that mine waters are more heavily influenced by sulfate, which is SO4, the yellow. And whenever we look at that in a holistic picture, we can really start to get an idea of which of our streams are increasing towards more brine influenced and ones that are heavily influenced by mine water, and ones that are pretty neutral that aren't really influenced heavily by one or the other. Volunteer monitoring is extremely valuable. A lot of you on the call today are probably with volunteer organizations. And we've got a database that Lisa will talk about in terms of being able to enter your data. We find a lot of value in working with volunteer groups to get an idea of what's happening in different areas so that if there's a particular issue, it's something that we can go look at a little bit closer. We've been involved in numerous different targeted studies over the past few years. We budget a certain amount of funding every year that we really don't know what we're going to use it for until something comes up and we need to go out into the field. You can get on the website and look at these really cool fact sheets and story maps that we have for some of the targeted studies that we've done. And that's it. I went over my time. Sorry.
That's okay, Melissa.
I didn't yell at you.
Right.
Yeah, Lisa.
All right, I'm going to switch you over here. Let's see, there we are. All right, what I'm going to talk about is the Three Rivers Quest database. Let me zoom myself up here. You can access the database from the Three Rivers Quest website, which is, as Melissa said, housed in the West Virginia University. So if you scroll all the way down, this is all about us. And of course, there's all our news and everything. But here's where you can access the database. So you would just click on that and it would take you to, wait, I can move this out of my way. This. All right, I'm just going to do a quick overview live for you so that we have an idea of how it works. Now, many of you were around when we had the old database, and you may remember it was kind of not quite user-friendly. You had to update your password all the time and go through a giant process. It was very, very secure. Sometimes it had some glitches, and we had some difficulty with making modifications and upgrades. So for those of you who may remember, we upgraded it to the cloud back in 2018. We shut down the database for a year and then moved it over to here. So it is being hosted, as you can see here, by Amazon, right? They're AWS. And so it's really secure, pretty stable. All right, I'm just going to sign in real quick. All right, once you get here, as you can see, it will retain your login information. And then what we have here is the basic landing page or the home page. And this is where you guys will, or users will be able to access all the information for input and export, right? Now, because I'm an admin, I have a little bit more information here than you have. I just want to make sure this chat has nothing to do with me. No, it doesn't. Okay, so that this, I have an admin side, which you don't, but you will have the data management and the report side. So I'm just going to quickly show you some of these features so you can understand how the database can help you. First of all, if you are collecting data loggers or field values, we have ways for you to input that data into the database. You right now can only do the data logger by individual site, and then same thing with the field sample data entry. However, one of the benefits of being a 3RQ member is that you have access to me. So if you have a whole lot of data that you need to upload, either historic or you have many, many sites that you're checking, you can send me that data and I will upload it for you. However, you can also do it yourself easily. The data logger import screen, when you come here, you will simply look, you'll build a profile. I'm not going to go through that process with you now, but I could show you if you don't know how to do it as a member. I will give you training and you'll see how to do it then. But basically, you just let them, just going to pick a random profile here. You click choose file. This will take you to the CSV file that you have saved somewhere on your hard drive or a thumb drive from your data logger. That's it. All right, once you set up the profile, you choose the file, you hit save, it's an immediate upload, and you can access that data immediately. Same thing with the field sample data entry. This screen here, you will simply choose, as an admin, I get everybody, so I'm just going to pick Duquesne here, they're right up top. You could pick a site, right? You can see all their sites are listed there. Pick your date of when you sampled and then just fill it in. Right, you hit save, and now that record has also become part of the database that you can access immediately, right? If you make a mistake, we have a way for you to go in and correct that data yourself. But again, I am here to help you. So if you have a vast amount of data or you made some major mistake, you just need to reach out to me and I'll be able to help you or fix it or upload your data for you or whatever. This is how you would create your data logger profile and then, of course, edit it. The reports are the tools that we've developed for you. Now, these are things that we came up with. We have 4 of them, and we're always accepting suggestions from our users for other tools that they may want. One thing I want to make clear, though, we are grant funded through RQ, and the database is simply a small part of that budget. So there's only so much that we can do on a regular basis insofar as upgrades and whatnot. So if a user wants a specific upgrade, we're simply requesting that you pay for that you find the funding to pay for the upgrade that you want, because we, of course, pay for the upgrades that we want. So it's more of a data community at that point. Everybody shares in the upgrades. Individuals may pay for them, but you're not paying for anything insofar as using the data or the database. There's no charge for it. So I'm just going to run through these very quickly for you. I'm going to start with the logger data report. This is how you would pull out logger data that you have put in. Now, this screen, I'm telling you right now, we've just put in a request for a modification. So I'm hoping that we should have an upgrade on this screen in the next few months. But I want to show you how it works right now. And I'm going to use Washington County. And then, you'll pull your site. And again, I see everything because I'm a admin. You will only see your group, your sites, or the group and sites who have given you permission to view their data, which I'm going to also talk about in a real quick second. All right, so if I want to do this, you're just going to pick the year. And because data loggers come out with so much data per month, most of the loggers are set at 15-minute intervals. And so the data files can be anywhere from, upwards of 16,000 rows. We have to restrict what you pull back on a view just to a 1 month, simply because it's, as I said, a tremendous amount of data. When you do this and you click on the search button, what you're going to end up with as your report, and you see it comes back pretty quickly, is we'll give you a min, an average, and a max for the month of the values that were input by your logger file. And then we give you two sets of graphs, I should say. This is a consolidated graph. The problem with this, as you can see, is conductivity. The scale is so much different than what you might have for water temperature or water level, that those are very difficult values to see on the graph. So what we then did after the consolidated was broken out for you so that individual parameters that you pulled up will have an individual graph. Okay, so that's the data logger report. Then you can see there's a field summary, which will give you for any field work that you might have put in. And for this, I'm going to use a little bit of West Virginia. Right, we're going to use WVWRI, and I'm going to pull the Deckers Creek real quick. Now here you have no restriction as far as date, but there is that restriction for conductivity. Again, because the values are so much different on the scales, if you pull conductivity with anything else, the only thing you'll see is conductivity on the consolidated scale. So we've said that you might want to display it on your own in order to get a more accurate viewing of the graphs. Okay, so here I'm going to just pull all of 2020 for us. Right, and I'll pull it up to, what did I say? I checked till August. We'll just go to August 31st. All right, and here you just will choose the columns you want to see. So I'm going to pick them all because maybe we don't remember what we were looking for. Oh, wait, I wrote this down. So I'm going to pick pH, alkalinity, and water temp is really what I'm going to do for you. Alkalinity and the water temp. All right. And then when you click search, it runs through. And again, you see how fast that data comes back to you. It's the database flies now. So again, here's a consolidated graph of the 3 parameters that you chose. And then we will break them out for you into individual graphs by parameter. All right, so that's the field summary. We have a similar one with the lab summary report, right, which will do the same thing. Here, of course, are all the lab values that we have. So for this, just to show you very quickly, I'm going to run you an Ohio report so I could show you how quickly and easily it is. We'll go to Captina Creek. And for this one, I'm going to look all of 2020 also. Okay, and we will pick for this a whole lot of these. So let's take a bromide. Whoopsie. Let's take manganese. Let's look at TDS. Chloride is a good one. And sodium. Just grab these few. Oh, and we'll do a TSS just in case. All right, so then you do a search. And again, it immediately comes out with whatever data has been put in. If you get no result, that means no data was put in for either that site, that time span, or for the values that you chose. Right now, I know what's in there, so you can always ask me again through an email. And again, we give you a consolidated lab graph and then one for each of the parameters that you choose. Okay, so this is basically how the database runs, right? The last thing we have is once you get data in, you want a way to get it out. Now, the logger data, that's the one we're right now restricted. And so one of the modifications that we're requesting within the next few months is for you to be able to export your logger data. We originally had it here under our export data field, but the problem is many of our users have both what we call combined sites. So they have both loggers and field sampling in the same location. With the export data and displaying all of that data, you could never find your field data. It was just way too much coming back out. So what we've done is we've split it. The export data now is solely for field data, and we will be modifying the logger field to give you that. Now, export data is kind of complicated, can be complicated, but I'm just going to show you a quick way to do it, right? There are search templates already built. You are allowed to use any of them, but you can only modify the ones you built. So I'm going to use my basic data uploaded one, right? And for this, we're going to look at Duquesne, and we're going to pull Allegheny Lock and Dam for them. And I'm going to pull all of 2019. Due to COVID, many of our groups were unable to sample. Duquesne is one of them. So we're going to pull 2019 for them. And again, you see how quickly it comes back. So now it shows you every bit of data that we have for those sites on those dates, both lab and field, if we've received lab data, right? And of course, Duquesne goes through PACE along with West Virginia and the Ohio groups. So we have all of that lab data. Now, some people might ask us, and some people do, what do we do with that data? Well, let me tell you. Waters is a data warehouse tool. It is there for you to warehouse your data. In this way, you can be assured your data is safe and secure. Once it's loaded into Waters, it's not going anywhere. You'll always be able to access it. You'll always be able to view it. You'll always be able to share it, right? It's not going away. The second thing is, because that data is in there, right, we offer you some of these tools like I showed you in the reports, but they're just tools. Jude's going to talk to you about another tool that we've developed for you. But again, they're just tools. We've used them on different parameters to try to give you something back, but we do not analyze your data for you, right? We can help you pull it, we can help you put it in, and we can help you get it back out in any form. But we don't have the manpower. Very few of us are full-time for 3RQ, if any. I'm not even sure if any of us are full-time for 3RQ. But, you know, we are here to help you. You can share your data if you wish. That's a simple thing. You just simply send me an email, say I give permission for so-and-so to view the following data under the following sites, and I code it that way. It takes me a few minutes, and you're good to go. If you do not want to share your data, you do not have to. So it's totally up to you. It's your data. You own it. We don't do anything with your data other than warehouse it. We don't do QA/QC other than the parameter ranges. So what that means is I've built the database to know what the valid parameter ranges are. Let's say for pH, we know it does not go above 14 or below 0. So you will not be able to input a pH value of 75. It'll kick out as an error. And the error reports that you get back are in English. This is an improvement over the old database, which would give you back error reports, but that were in coding language. And if you didn't understand coding language, which few of us do, you couldn't figure out what errors you had. Now we just come right back and tell you the site name's wrong, that parameter's outside of the range or whatever, and we give you that record back. So the system will error out for you and give you an Excel sheet that says these are the sites you have a problem with. You can simply correct that Excel sheet and then re-upload it, and it corrects your errors. So there's a lot in there. I'm more than happy to walk anybody through the in more in depth, or to give you training. If you want to use the database, you just need to get a hold of me and we'll set you up with an account. I do need to get coordinates from you for your sites. We use the GPS coordinates, but I do have a way to convert if everything you have is in minutes and seconds. And Rachel, I think I am on time with 32 seconds to spare.
Very impressive. Thanks, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Jude, if you are ready, you should be able to share your screen and get started.
Awesome. So hopefully I can keep it at 15 minutes like Lisa did. Before I kind of jump into things, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Jude Platts, and I'm an undergraduate water researcher with 3RQ. And so a lot of the stuff I do is related to these maps right here. And so what these maps are is this is a way to kind of visually view the data that you guys are sending to us. And so these are published online. These are online GIS maps, and everyone has access to them. And they're also posted to our website, which I'll show you how to get to in just a bit. And so essentially what it is all these data points are sites that we sample. If you click into any of them, you can actually see all of the data for this site for different months. And so the map I have pulled up right now is our 3RQ monthly sampling. And so it only contains the 2020 monthly sites. And these get updated anytime we update our spreadsheets and anytime we get data back. And so in addition to this map right here, we also have maps for the volunteer data, which is probably something you guys would be pretty interested in. And so you can see we have a whole lot of different sites over on this left side, and you can see them all over here. And so these function the same exact way. Again, you can just click in on any of the sites, and then for that site, you can view all of the data. And it goes on quite a bit. And so one of the downfalls of Waters is that it doesn't automatically sync the data to these maps. And so there is kind of a human process to get it up there. And so I'm going to go over in a little bit how to best get your data onto these maps. Because one of the downfalls of Waters, again, is that when we're exporting data, especially with the logger data, we can only export a small amount, like a month at a time, pretty much. And so I'm unable to take all of your data from Waters and put it in here, but we are able to do it in other ways. And so real quickly, I just want to show you what the logger data looks like as well. Again, same basic premise. You have all of your sites on the left. You can even click in and out of them to view where they're at. And we can just click in and we can see, especially with logger data, we have 5,064 different values for this one site. And so logger data can get pretty extensive, which is why it's pretty difficult to export from Waters and put it onto the maps. And so if you're looking to find these maps yourself, you can actually do it pretty easily. Just go ahead and Google 3RQ, and it actually pops up right down here automatically. And so if we click on 3RQ maps, we can go ahead and we can see all of the different maps that we have. And so we have volunteer data, which is a lot of the stuff that you guys would be sending to us, data loggers, reach for schools, and all these different maps. If we go ahead and we click on the images, it'll actually take us right to that map. And so that's pretty convenient right there. It's a good way to kind of view your data. And so these maps usually get, depends on the map, at the very low point, around 200 views. And then we also have maps that go all the way up to like 20,000 views. So these are definitely some pretty heavily viewed maps. And it's always cool to kind of see your data in like a more visual sense by using these maps. And so of course, if you want to see your data, you kind of have to see how you can get it up on these maps. And so I'm going to show you what that kind of looks like. And so in order to get your data up on these maps, it needs to be in an easy format for me to deal with. And so the easiest, of course, would be a CSV. And so this is an example of the MON data that I use to upload to the map. So the first map I showed you was our 2020 monthly values. And so this is actually the exact CSV that I uploaded to the map to get the data on. And so one of the main things you'll notice right here is the latitude and the longitude. Without this, I really can't do anything with your data. Having the coordinates is one of the most important things for getting your data on the map. And also having it in this nice clean format where we see all the column headings up there and all the data down here. And so if you have your data in this consistent format and you're consistently doing it like this, you can go ahead and send these CSVs to Lisa or to myself, and then I can easily upload it to the maps. When it's in this nice clean format like this, it actually only takes like maybe 5 minutes and I can have it up on the map. The place where we run into a lot of issues is where I need to do a lot of data cleaning. So there might not be coordinates, or your coordinates are in waters, or you have a lot of data in waters. A huge issue with the CSVs is that the files are so massive. And so if you're sending logger data to me, oftentimes it's in like 15-minute increments. And so those files are going to be like very, very massive files, and GIS actually cannot handle those. So if they're in 15-minute increments and the files are too large, those are going to be a little bit difficult for me to deal with. But what you can actually do is you can aggregate it by day. So you can summarize all of those 15-minute intervals into daily intervals, and then that's going to definitely decrease the size of the file and allow me to upload it to the maps. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely get into contact with me or Lisa, and we would be happy to make sure that your data is consistently getting onto these maps. But again, there is no connection between waters and the maps. And so by just uploading your data into the maps, or into the waters database, it's not necessarily a guarantee that it will get onto the maps. So along with the maps, another kind of visual tool that we've been playing around with. Let's see if I can go ahead and share this one. There we are. So you guys should be able to see this one right here. And so this is the report card system. We kind of created this one about a year ago, and we haven't really touched it since. But it's a really cool system to kind of visually kind of see what's going on with your data and kind of analyze it. So of course, it's not a exact science or anything like that, but all of these values that you see are going to be based on EPA standards. And so we can go ahead and we can fill this in just to kind of see what it looks like. And so I'm just going to use random numbers. None of this is actually real. Let's pick the date as today. And so we can go ahead and we can choose numbers that we kind of know what's going to happen with them, and we can see what the grades are going to spit out. So we know 7.5 is going to be a good pH, so we should get a grade of an A for that. Aluminum, if we put something in like 5, we'd expect a pretty bad grade for that. Barium, of course, we want like 0. PDS, and we just keep going down the line and then kind of check and see what has happened with all of this. So I'm going to keep filling these ones in. And again, one of the downfalls of this is that we only have these parameters currently. And so if you have parameters that you test for that are not included on this, I'd be more than happy to create a spreadsheet that also includes that. I just need some suggestions on which parameters you guys would like to see so we can make this more user-friendly. So if we look back, we saw that we put a pH of 7.5 in, which we knew was going to be a good pH. And we see, of course, it spits out a grade of an A for that. Aluminum, we put a pretty poor aluminum grade. If you have 5 milligrams per liter of aluminum, we all know that's going to be a pretty big issue. And so, of course, it spit out an F for that. We can look all the way down the line, and all of these grades kind of make intuitive sense. Iron was a C. We can look back at that. We see that iron was 1. Definitely not good, but not too horrible. And so the reason that this works so well is that it's based on EPA standards. And so it takes into account the EPA standard for the total amount allowed in the water. And then it's also taking into account the ideal parameter. So we know that an ideal parameter of something like aluminum would be 0. Obviously, we don't want aluminum in the water. And so the closer we get to 0, the better the grade is going to be. And then if we exit outside of the EPA standard, we know that we're going to have a pretty poor grade. And so we also see at the end, we have an overall grade calculator right here. And so this overall grade only works if every single parameter is filled out. So that's one of the limitations to it, but it is a weighted grade. So just because aluminum is an F, it doesn't mean that it's weighted differently. So if we take the aluminum up, right now it's only 5. So if we increase the aluminum an absurd amount, say 100, even though it's still a grade of an F, we'll see that the overall grade is going to drop significantly. And we see that now the overall grade is an F. So it's taking into account it's not just averaging the grades for each individual parameter, it's also taking into account how severe each parameter is. So when we have this extremely severe aluminum level, even though the rest of it looks good, this one parameter is going to destroy the overall grade, make it an F. So that's just kind of the logic and the way this report card system works. And so again, these are just the parameters that we currently test for. And so if you'd like your own parameters on here, or if there's any parameters that you guys test for that you would like to see, you can go ahead and send me suggestions. I'd be happy to also include those in this spreadsheet. So hopefully I didn't miss anything, but I think that's all I have for you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it back to Rachel.
Thanks, Jude. So at this point, we are ready for the question and answer session, which Stan Kabbalah is going to facilitate. And so if you have any questions about 3RQ in general, or a specific issue you might have had with either waters or the maps, or just any questions at all, start putting them in the chat, and I'll let Stan take it over.
Very good. Thanks, Rachel. We've got a question. We've had a few questions already, and you've seen the answers. But let me review that first one that popped in before I go down the list, which was from Ellie. Are the targeted studies publicly available? And Melissa responded, yes, they are. And you see there a link to those targeted studies reports. And but moving right along, Melissa did note that we are looking for the support to be able to build a direct connection between waters. That's the database, and the online maps that Jude just presented to you. That would be a tremendous advantage. I think you heard from Jude that there were those little glitches, little downfalls that make it less than speedy to get all of the information we've got, all the data we've got, onto the maps themselves. And some of that actually is not the problem of the website, but rather, in fact, what can be handled by the mapping software programs. We've got a couple questions here from Decker's Creek. If not completely filled out, is the overall grade that spit out an error or an inaccurate grade? I guess that goes to Jude.
Right. So yeah, that's a really good question. Thank you for asking. So if it's not completely filled out, it's not going to show up as an error. It's just going to be an inaccurate grade. And so if you were to miss a parameter, say if you were to not have an aluminum value, it would just treat that as the best possible value. So by having no aluminum value, it would treat the aluminum as 0, so the ideal value for aluminum. And so your grade is going to be a little bit inaccurate because you're missing that aluminum value, and it's just assuming it's a perfect value.
And Melissa from Rachel. This is an internal one. Could you talk a bit more about what types of projects and issues might be considered for a Three Rivers Quest targeted study?
So we've been sort of all over the place in terms of what we've done with targeted studies. Sometimes we've had issues come in that are very timely, and that seems to sort of be our general rule of thumb. We looked into an issue several years ago about high radiologicals in 10 Mile. And it was something that was extremely beneficial to have that targeted study money readily available to go out and immediately start sampling. If you all work in a grant funded world, you'll know that it often takes several months or a year before an opportunity for funding is available. And then you have a turnaround time waiting to see if you're even awarded. And then if you get the award, then you can start sampling. So, we really try to focus on things that are a real immediate need that we need to really go out and look at something. We have had a few in the northern area, and Brady can jump on and probably talk about the work that they've done, where there just hasn't been another suitable funding opportunity available, to go in and look at something. And because it's just a recurring issue and it's something that maybe kind of messes with our data set that we want to try to figure out what's going on, we'll set aside some of those funds to go out there and dive into it. So it just sort of depends, what it is that what is the hot topic of concern, and can we reasonably address it? We don't want to just throw that money away into something where we're not going to be able to really come to any solid conclusions. But if it's something that we can go out and really try our best, then it's suitable. So case by case, really.
And from Ellie again, a very interesting question. Are we, that is 3RQ, actively looking for new volunteers for sampling? And if so, in any particular area, or I'll add areas, that in trying to determine how current volunteers can help recruit more and new volunteer groups? Well, that goes to our samplers, that goes to Melissa, to Rachel. Let's see who.
Yeah, I can jump in first. You can get an idea just by looking at the volunteer maps that Jude showed earlier, what organizations are sampling in which areas. So that's always a good place to start. Whenever folks come to us as individuals and they're looking to do something, we try to partner them with an existing group rather than starting a new organization, because it's a lot easier for them to fall into a program that's already up and running, that already has the ability to, train them on sampling procedures. The states are organized differently. So, in Pennsylvania, they've got, these great watershed coordinators, Jennifer Dan with the Washington County Watershed Alliance, who, serve as like an umbrella for multiple different watershed organizations. So, if there's an area that you're interested in, let us know and we can try to find a group that's already out there in your general area that perhaps you could fall under to get training for sampling.
We're always looking for ways to fill in the blank spots. And one sort of blank spot, one category of blank spot is, well, the geography. And that's what we're getting at right now. But I'd like to underline a couple things that you heard two things, one from Jude, one from Lisa. And new parameters. Jude offered that there might be a parameter that could be built in to his spreadsheet. So consider that. And by the same token, we are working, and this might be something, this is for the long term, and Melissa, I'm going to let you tackle this. We've been thinking about a different set of parameters. We've essentially been working on chemical parameters, as you see. Some issues have arisen that have to do with others, like biologicals or turbidity. Now, we aren't monitoring in those for those now, but they offer potential.
Yeah, we're always looking for funding. In fact, we've put out some different proposals trying to seek funding to incorporate some of those parameters into our routine monitoring, and haven't been successful in doing so. The nice thing is that as long as we're able to continue getting support from Colcom Foundation, we already have, all of the logistics and the sampling network established. So adding on additional parameters isn't overly costly if we're able to just grab an extra bottle while we're already out there doing our total dissolved solids monitoring. So those are things and ways that we're trying to incorporate other funding and other parameters into our current network.
Where can we move from here? I heard Brady, if you're there, this is Stan. I can nag. You might tell us some of the issues you encountered that Lisa alluded to in your work.
Sure, thanks. Sure, when we are entering data and we're analyzing it, and we see that a particular site has some high readings, that might initiate directed study towards that particular element to try to figure out what the point source is for it. For instance, we have master students that can take these on as projects, and that's how we've handled it in the past. So we've done that most recently with Pine Creek because we realized its chloride levels were much higher than almost all the other streams in our database. So we tried to we expanded a number of sites throughout Pine Creek. We looked at different times of the year. We put in a logger down in the bottom part of the system to kind of get an overall idea of specific conductance. We correlated that almost all the specific conductance was basically perfectly correlated with the chlorides, and this was a difficult one. We also looked at groundwater, and this kind of overlapped into some of the work that John Stoltz does here independently to see if the groundwater was related to the surface water nearby with the chlorides and other elements, and they weren't. So we're thinking that a lot of that chloride input was long residual road runoff or a road de-icing runoff that may stay in the soil for a lot longer than we realize. And since Pine Creek has a lot of major roads running right along it, it certainly suffers from those types of things. So that kind of gives an example of these directed studies when we see that some parameter is out of whack compared to the rest of the ones in the geographic region. We can then kind of dig down deeper into it and try to understand what's going on. And so I think this is one of the big pluses to having all these data available is, let's say a new watershed like Gertie's Run started up and they wanted to understand their data. How does it fit in with Pine Creek? How does it fit in with other tributaries to the Allegheny and so forth? And we can kind of provide that with the data that we have at this point and put it in a frame of reference. Is it, what parameters are far out from close by streams? And I think that's a really nice thing that's developing with these data sets.
Well, folks, I certainly encourage you to type in a question. We're delighted you're here. You saw in my case that there was that word outreach attached to me. What that translates is I respond to any and all invitations, and I'll show up at meetings or events, by which I mean to say, if you have an event or have a session or some whatever sort of activity it might be, and you're hoping to get the word out to others, by all means, get in touch with us, and we'll be delighted to put the word out to our various vehicles. We've got a thing called Rivers Run Through This, R2T2, I think I got that right. Yeah, Rivers Run Through This. And we can get word out to folks about your events. I see that Lauren is asking the question that Jude mentioned. It's important to have those coordinates for the map upload. Could you show us how to export the coordinates from waters? Wow, okay.
I'll take that. So here's the thing. Yeah, I'll take that. You cannot right now export the coordinates from waters. However, because you have to send them to me to be put into waters, we save those sheets so I can always get them back to you. And if you're asking in terms of in order to get your data on the map, I know Jude showed you that giant template. Listen, you could just send me your data. I'll put it in, I'll clean it for you, and then I'll send it on to Jude to go on to the map, right? So if you have stuff you want for the map, just send me the data.
John, there you are. Thank you. Here's from John. Does the system compare samples that you can see a trend as the water flows downstream? In other words, to allow the opportunity to ID, to identify a source of pollution?
I'm not sure I understand what you're asking. Are you saying, can you compare one site to another? If that's the question, then yes, you can in waters. You can pull more than one site for your reports by holding down the control key. I'm not sure if that answered your question, John. Okay, good.
I'm going to suggest, John, you give us a few more words, or let Lisa, or maybe even unmute
No, I'm
yourself
done.
quickly.
We're
Oh,
done.
you've got it?
We're good. We're good.
Oh,
We're good,
good. I
Stan.
didn't see that. Very
Yeah,
good.
no, we're good.
Excellent.
We're good. Don't worry about
Okay.
it. Yep, it's all good.
Things going on, I see. Very
Yeah.
excellent. Good. Okay.
All right. So, that's the whole thing. Remember, as your data manager, any data you have or anything that deals with your data, you can send it directly to me. From me, I can send it to Jude to get up on the map. If you load your data on your own, I don't know you've done it, so it can't get up on the map. So if you load your data, you can just send me an email and say, hey, I loaded data for blah, blah site, and then I'll extract it, I'll clean it, I'll get it to Jude, it'll go up on the map. All right, we just right now, that trigger is for us to know when you've loaded data. That's what's in our newest quote for our upgrade. We actually have 3 things we want to change, and that's one of them. So for now, you kind of have to let me know. Rachel does check the database on a regular basis to see who has uploaded what. But of course, we don't do that every day. So if you want it on the map more timely, then you just kind of just let us know that you've put something in. A quick email, hey, I loaded data for this site. That's all I need, right? And we can take it from there for you. Rachel, I think it's about it. I know I'm going to need to roll soon.
Yeah, I think Melissa just had a few closing words that she wanted to give.
Yeah, hopefully y'all can see that screen again, but I did put up there links if you don't currently receive our bi-weekly newsletter. You can sign up on the website to receive that. It includes all sorts of kind of interesting things from the Upper Ohio River Basin that we think that y'all might be interested in. We also have a Facebook page. If you're on Facebook, you can join us there on social media to follow along with different things that are going on. And then, of course, we want to thank everybody that's involved with REARQ. And, our initial funding came through USGS to get us started on our mod request. And we've been supported by Colcom Foundation. And we wouldn't be here without their continued support and hopefully their continued support into the future. We've also received funding in the past from Pennsylvania DEP for their education grant program, which I think that it was at least on the timeline that we did a Reach for Schools program a few years ago. And then the multiple different volunteer organizations. And if you're not up here, it's either because I don't have your logo or because this is an older image that I pulled off last night. So we'd love to get this updated and get more organizations on here. Our partnerships are such that, if there's opportunities to seek grant funding together to work on a project, we're all about that. The Waters database is free and open to use. It's there. So we've, invested the money into building it based off of information that we've gathered from various different groups, and thought that this was a way that we could really try to provide a really great tool for multiple different organizations and encourage everybody to use it. The more it's used and the more that we have various folks coming into it, the more we can advocate for, future support. We aren't limited to the Upper Ohio River Basin, other than that's what our funding is focused for. But the database itself can handle data from anywhere in the world. So keep that in mind too as you connect with other organizations. And then we'll just open it up for any final questions, but we really appreciate everybody's time. Actually, Rachel, maybe you should give everybody a sneak peek at the layout for the next few roundtables that we have planned. Back in the day, before COVID, we used to do these fun things in person and have great things like donuts and sandwiches and talk. We don't get to do that so much anymore, but do really appreciate everybody giving up an hour of their day today and joining us. So Rachel?
Yeah, so I'm sharing my screen now. Hopefully you can all see the next 2 session dates. So the next two sessions are going to be a little bit different. We're going to hear from some of our participating volunteer groups. Volunteer meaning they volunteer their data to us. So some watershed groups, conservation districts, things like that. And, you know, we're going to hear from them about different projects that they're currently working on. And this is going to go from monitoring to acid mine drainage, some recreation issues. It's going to be really interesting, and hopefully you can make some connections and maybe get inspired for some issues that you want to start tackling at your organization. And so this will be on the first Wednesday of each month. The first date will be January 6th, and then we will meet again February 3rd. And so we really encourage everybody to sign up for those sessions. And if anybody has any questions that they weren't able to ask during today's session, you can email any of us. So let me go back to, so these are our emails up there again. And we're really looking forward to seeing you all again in a month, hopefully. And thank you all for attending.
And thank you, Rachel.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good one.